Shadow's eyes. When the Williams family adopted Shadow, a sleek black Labrador mix with an intense, almost unsettling gaze, they thought they were saving him. He had been left behind at the shelter for weeks, his previous owners long gone. He was quiet, well-behaved, and never barked. The perfect dog, they thought. But from the first night he entered their home, strange things began to happen. It started with noises in the night, soft scratches at the walls, the sound of nails scraping across the floor, even when Shadow was fast asleep in his bed. The next morning, they'd find doors slightly ajar, cabinets open. Things moved from where they had been left. Lily, their youngest daughter, was the first to notice something was wrong. She woke up one night to find Shadow sitting in the corner of her room, his glowing eyes fixed on her. She told her parents, but they brushed it off, assuming the dog was just adjusting to his new home. "Dogs stare sometimes, sweetheart," her father said. "It's nothing to worry about." But Lily was worried. The next night, she locked her bedroom door before going to sleep, hoping it would keep Shadow out. She woke again in the dead of night to a soft growl and the feeling of eyes burning into her. Shadow was sitting at the foot of her bed, despite the locked door. Lily screamed, and her parents rushed in. But by then, Shadow was already lying innocently in the hallway. They scolded her for making up stories. But her fear grew with each passing night. Soon, everyone in the house started to feel the weight of Shadow's presence. He never barked or growled at anyone directly, but there was something sinister about the way he moved, like he was always watching, always waiting. One evening, Mr. Williams noticed Shadow sitting in the living room, staring intently at the family photo on the mantel. As he walked past, Shadow's reflection in the glass seemed different, distorted, darker. The reflection's eyes were red, glowing with a malevolence that made Mr. Williams pause. He blinked and looked again, but the eyes were normal now. Still, a cold chill crept up his spine. That night, the scratching noises grew louder, echoing through the walls. Mrs. Williams swore she heard whispers, faint and menacing, as if they were coming from Shadow's direction. The air around him felt oppressive, suffocating, like a dark cloud hung over him. Then, the dreams started. Each family member dreamed of Shadow, but in every dream, he wasn't just a dog. He was something else. Something ancient and cruel, with a twisted, unnatural form lurking beneath the surface. His eyes glowed red, his mouth curled into a snarl, and in every dream, they felt a terrible dread as he approached them. One night, Lily didn't come down for breakfast. Mr. and Mrs. Williams called her name, but there was no response. Panicked, they rushed upstairs and threw open her bedroom door. Lily's bed was empty, the sheets torn and shredded. The room was freezing cold, the windows frosted over. But in the corner, sitting quietly with his back to them, was Shadow. His black fur rippled, and his head slowly turned toward them. His eyes, those red, glowing eyes, bore into theirs. A low growl rumbled in his throat, more like a chuckle than anything a dog should make. And then they heard it, a faint whisper coming from the walls, the floor, the air itself. "He's mine now." Frantic, they searched the house, but Lily was gone, vanished without a trace. The only sign of her was a single small handprint on the window, pressed into the frost. Desperate, the family tried to get rid of Shadow, but no matter where they sent him, he always returned. They locked him outside, but he would be back in the house by morning, watching them with those glowing eyes. They tried to take him back to the shelter, but when they arrived, the building had mysteriously burned to the ground. One by one, the Williams family began to disappear. First Lily, then Mrs. Williams. All that remained were faint whispers in cold spots in the house. The last night Mr. Williams was seen, a neighbor reported hearing terrible, guttural growls coming from inside the house. By the time the authorities arrived, the house was empty, except for Shadow, sitting silently in the middle of the living room, watching the door with glowing red eyes. No one ever lived in that house again, but some nights, if you pass by, you can catch a glimpse of a black dog in the window, staring out, waiting for the next family to call him theirs.